Governor Ned Lamont has signed a bill that state leaders believe will help limit the presence of immigration enforcement agents here in Connecticut. Thanks for watching the news at 6. I'm Brent Harden.
And I'm Annette Montgomery. That bill will restrict agents from making arrests without a warrant in certain areas like churches, schools, hospitals, and even courts. Fox 61's Jamel Johnson shares how this bill impacts the state's immigration policies.
Not only does this bill restrict immigration arrests without a warrant in certain areas, but it also helps those who have been detained by ICE sue ICE agents if they feel like their rights have been violated. An act concerning democracy and government accountability is what state leaders are calling Senate Bill 397. Governor Ned Lamont signed the bill into action as the 2026 legislative session nears its end.
We didn't waste any time. We signed the bill. It is the law of the land here in the state of Connecticut. We're standing up and fighting for each and every one of you. And we're not going to forget it. And that's what Connecticut is all about.
The bill is comprehensive, covering several aspects of immigration enforcement. Along with stopping warrantless arrests and making it easier to sue an ICE agent, the bill also stops federal, state, and local officials from covering their faces and requires them to wear a badge or a name tag. Another notable clause in the bill restricts someone from becoming a police officer if they have less than 480 hours of training. According to the bill, ICE agents receive about 376 hours of training. In the days leading up to the signing, State Representative Greg Howard, a Republican, shared his thoughts on the matter, saying he doesn't see the need to include state and local officers in the bill. Melanie Yunga, a senior at Wilbercross High School, says the bill brings comfort to many students like herself.
It means my parents don't have to think twice before driving me somewhere or showing up for our community. My siblings growing up in a more just and safe place. It means we live our daily lives with a little more dignity, a little more safety, and a little more peace, making ourselves live and not just survive. And that's what this bill is about, protecting families and our ability to exist without constant fear.
Yunga goes to the same school as Edra Zabaleta Ramirez, an 18-year-old who was detained by ICE agents at his workplace and later returned home to continue his education a few months later. Zabaleta Ramirez is just one in a long line of Connecticut students and workers who've been detained by immigration enforcement. Stephanie DeSuze with 1199 New England believes the bill helps workers from all backgrounds. She shared one example of someone the bill could benefit, a woman in the union who immigrated from Haiti but lost her humanitarian status when the Biden administration's humanitarian parole program ended in 2025.
She lost her work permit. Every door knock at her house came with heart pounding, and are they going to take me away from my family? People are scared, not just at work, but in their everyday lives.
After the signing, Senate Minority Leader Stephen Harding sent us a statement saying he believes the law will be struck down in courts. Most of the provisions in the bill took effect immediately, but the part about making arrests without a warrant doesn't take effect until October of this year. In Hartford, Jamel Johnson, Fox 61.
Well, now to some breaking news now at 6:03. A man has died on the Airline State Park Trail in Hebron. Authorities say the 77-year-old man suffered a medical issue. We're told a person nearby did perform CPR before first responders arrived. The man was taken to the hospital where he was later pronounced dead. Officials say there are no signs of foul play and the investigation is ongoing.
And we have an update on breaking news in Washington, D.C. now. The Secret Service says officers confronted a suspect on the National Mall who then fired a gun and shot someone nearby. The Secret Service says agents then returned fire. This happened near the Washington Monument this afternoon. We don't know how the person who was shot is doing. The White House was placed on a brief lockdown for the investigation. We'll let you know as soon as we learn more.
School districts across Connecticut will now receive the funding they've long been fighting for. It comes after this past weekend, lawmakers approved a $28 billion budget for the 2027 fiscal year. Now that includes more than $270 million in new aid, and it's all being done without raising taxes. Governor Ned Lamont says this funding will help close budget gaps and ease pressure on property taxes. The plan passed with bipartisan support and now heads to the governor's desk. Once signed, cities struggling with deficits like Hartford, New Haven, New Britain, and New London will be among the top recipients. If you want to see how much your town or city will receive, you can visit fox61.com.
A Waterbury man is hospitalized right now with life-threatening injuries after he was hit by a car last night. Police say he was hit near East Main and William Streets just before 9:30. Officers say the driver did stay on scene and they are still investigating what happened.
And take a look at this. State police say a high schooler riding an ATV crashed into a pole on Crossbrook Road in Woodbury yesterday. Volunteer firefighters say he was flown to the hospital where he's currently recovering from serious injuries. Right now, it is unclear what caused the crash and any lasting damage in the area.
Well, this was the scene after a driver crashed into a tree last night on the south side of Route 61. Firefighters tell us one person was hospitalized with traumatic injuries. At this time, we don't know their condition, and officials have not released how many people were involved in the crash or exactly what caused it.
And tonight, we now know the cause of death for the woman who wandered from a Windsor Locks nursing home back in February. According to the chief medical examiner, Margaret Healy died from hypothermia, and her death was ruled accidental. They also say Healy had heart issues. Police say the 93-year-old was found face down in the snow outside of Bickford Healthcare Center back in early February. Video also shows before she was found, Healy left through an employee entrance. Since that accident, the nursing home has shut down and now faces health and safety violations. Well, several fire departments were on scene of the concierge apartments today after an emergency call regarding a fire. Firefighters say that fire first started in a laundry room and quickly spread through part of the building's ventilation system. Fox 61's Alicia Hercules is in Rocky Hill with more on the fire and how first responders were able to contain it.
Someone who lives in the building but wanted to remain off camera says the fire alarm goes off often in this building, so he was shocked to realize there was an actual fire this time. Just after 10 o'clock in the morning, the Rocky Hill Fire Department was dispatched to the concierge apartments for an activated fire alarm. When they arrived, first responders found a fire in the laundry room exhaust duct on the 3rd floor. The fire traveled up the 7-story exhaust and eventually to the roof. However, crews were able to keep the fire in the duct and fight it from the inside and outside. Due to the large size of the building, other departments, including Newington and Cromwell, were called in to assist. The fire marshal is investigating the cause. There were no injuries reported during the fire, and crews were able to quickly move people's belongings from the scene to prevent them from taking on any water damage. In Rocky Hill, Alicia Hercules, Fox 61.
Well, 3 months after the Yantic Volunteer Fire Department's shut down, other Norwich Volunteer Fire Departments are done waiting. They are asking a judge to end mediation and fast-track this fight to court. They say talks with the city manager and Norwich Fire Chief have stalled. Volunteers argue the city is pushing a fully paid union-run system while sidelining them with dispatch changes and decisions made behind closed doors. They say voters are have already rejected this once, and now they are ready to make that case in court. We reached out to the city of Norwich for comment. Now, this is what they said in part, quote, by abandoning mediation in favor of litigation, the volunteer departments have stepped away from a cooperative path forward. While this process now moves to the courts, the city remains firmly committed to maintaining the high standards of emergency response our community expects and deserves, end quote.
The U.S. military says it destroyed 6 small Iranian boats in the Strait of Hormuz after Iran reportedly launched missiles and small boats toward the U.S. Navy and commercial vessels. U.S. officials say 2 American flag ships have since passed safely through.
Now, Iran claims it fired warning shots near U.S. destroyers and says it hit a U.S. ship with missiles, which is something the U.S. denies. Meanwhile, oil prices are rising as concerns grow over shipping safety in a key global route. Lee Waldman has more.
The U.S. Central Command is touting the success of 2 U.S. flag merchant vessels safely navigating through the Strait of Hormuz.
My hat's off to the merchant captains who made that decision to go evidently unescorted through the strait.
The U.S. Navy guided missile destroyers are working in support of President Donald Trump's newly announced Project Freedom. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, for the good of Iran, the Middle East, and the United States, we have told these countries that we will guide their ships safely out of these restricted waterways. This is all coming during prolonged negotiations and inflammatory rhetoric between the Trump administration and Iran.
They want to make a deal. They're decimated. They're having a hard time figuring out who their leader is.
Anything we can do to undermine that control is a good thing. But let's remember that this was not an issue before this war.
Iran's Navy today denied the U.S. reports and said no commercial ships passed through the Strait of Hormuz, according to Iranian state media. While a top Iranian military official warned, quote, any foreign military force, especially the invading American army, will be attacked if they try to approach or enter the strait. CENTCOM denied a U.S. vessel was struck by Iranian missiles after Iranian state media claimed it happened. If the Strait of Hormuz does not reopen soon, experts worry U.S. gas could hit $5 a gallon. Prices have skyrocketed to $4.46 a gallon on Monday, up 35 cents from just a week ago. Lee Waldman, Fox 61.
The longtime and legendary radio and television voice of the New York Yankees died today at the age of 87. John Sterling was behind the microphone for 36 seasons calling Yankees games. Starting in 1989, Sterling called more than 5,400 regular season Yankee games, along with 225 in the postseason. Fans, of course, remember Sterling for a colorful personality that translated to signature home run and Yankees win calls. He retired from broadcasting 2 years ago.
We have a health update now on Rudy Giuliani. He is off a ventilator and breathing on his own. The 81-year-old was hospitalized in Florida yesterday with pneumonia and remains in critical but stable condition. His spokesperson says a pre-existing respiratory condition made things worse and led to the need for a ventilator. Giuliani had been coughing during an online show just days before being admitted.
And in other health news, 3 people are dead after a suspected hantavirus outbreak on a cruise ship in the Atlantic. It was on board the Hondias cruise. The World Health Organization says 1 case has been confirmed and the others are under investigation. South African health officials say 2 patients have been treated in South Africa, including 1 in intensive care. But they say there's no need for the public to panic. Hantavirus is rare and can spread to humans through contact with infected rodent droppings, urine, or saliva. The ship carried about 150 passengers on a route from Argentina toward the Canary Islands, with multiple South Atlantic stops.